Now, which of these ways would you choose to reveal your secret crush on someone? A, would you write that person a letter? B, would you tell the person in private in case he rejects you? Or C, would you tell that person that you're gay and you hope he is on national television?
I mean, how would you feel if your father thought that maybe you were homosexual?
Embarrassment is not an excuse for murder.
The following video contains graphic and disturbing content which may be upsetting for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Who's the daddy? My daughter looks like a stripper, and I married a horse. Just a few examples of the so-called trash TV phenomenon of the 90s. On March 6, 1995, the studio audience sat down at NBC in Chicago, Illinois, to tape an episode of The Jenny Jones Show. Titled Secret Admirers, the episode was to solely focus on same-sex or trans reveals. The episode consisted of 4 men and 2 women revealing their secret crushes. This wasn't the first time Jenny Jones had done secret crush reveals. It was a common theme in the tabloid talk show genre. No topic seemed to be off limits, everything from love triangles to incest, white supremacists to drag queens. The more taboo, titillating, or controversial it was, the better the ratings. Scott Amedure dropped out of high school to join the Army in 1980, when he was 17. In 1982, the Department of Defense issued a directive that homosexuality was incompatible with military service. Even just thinking about engaging in intimate relations with a member of the same sex would label you a homosexual and result in a discharge from the military. So, in 1983, Scott Amedure was discharged from the military, and he moved to Michigan. Scott was known as a generous and compassionate person. He even cared for a few friends who were terminally ill with AIDS, taking them in when others rejected them. He had trained in satellite communications in the Army, so when he got out, he worked in telecommunications for a few years before becoming a bartender. Scott was very outgoing and friendly, so night shifts at the bar suited him better than a boring desk job. Working nights allowed him to see all the daytime talk shows like Maury, Ricky Lake, Geraldo, Jerry Springer, and Jenny Jones. Scott had a strong bond with his family. He and his siblings grew up in Michigan and lived nearby. He would often visit them, and he got friendly with the neighbors in his brother's apartment complex. That's where Scott would meet Donna Riley, and they quickly became friends, sometimes going shopping together or grabbing drinks. One day, Donna was having some car issues, so she asked her neighbor Jonathan Schmitz if he could take a look at it. Donna and John were pretty friendly neighbors, and they would go out to bars together or hang out at each other's apartments. Scott was visiting his brother, and he saw Donna's car being worked on, so he walked over to check up on her. Donna introduced Scott to John, and that's where this story begins. Scott told Donna that he found John attractive, and asked her if she thought John might be open to a date. John was 24 and wasn't in a long-term relationship. John had mentioned to Donna that his parents were questioning his sexuality because his relationships with women were what his father described as volatile.
But it had to do again with the girls. I want you to know that. Girls.
Yes, sir, I know.
Okay.
Not any guys.
Girls, no guys.
Not any guys.
That's right.
Absolutely not, sir. No
That's
guys.
Right.
Scott thought maybe John was open to a date. There was only one way to find out, and that was to tell John that he had a crush on him. So when he saw that the Jenny Jones Show wanted people for a secret crush reveal, he answered the call-in. Scott was excited. He was going to be on TV and on the Jenny Jones Show. Since Donna was a mutual friend, she would accompany Scott to the show for the reveal. Donna wasn't sure if John was gay, but they were all friends, so she didn't think that there would be any hard feelings if he wasn't. The producers contacted John and told him that Donna wanted to take him on the Jenny Jones Show to reveal a secret crush. The producers insisted that they inform John his secret crush could be a man or woman. Donna said that John suspected her and Scott were somehow involved, but Donna and Scott denied it, wanting to keep the element of surprise for the show. John agreed to be part of the episode, but would later say that it was heavily implied his crush was a woman. Donna and Scott took their seats on the stage, and Jenny Jones began to dig into the story. She questioned Scott about his intimate thoughts in an attempt to get juicy and scandalous replies. It's claimed that Scott was given a couple of cocktails backstage to calm his nerves or loosen him up. Scott's answers were a bit scandalous, but nothing out of the ordinary for the Jenny Jones show.
And you are a size?
121 XXX.
How do you even determine that?
All 6 of the people on the receiving end of the crush reveal were not told who their secret crush was. They were kept separated from the guests who were doing the revealing, and they were wearing headphones so they couldn't hear anything in the studio. John comes out and sees Donna and Scott, and it's revealed that Scott is the one with the crush. John says he is flattered, but that he is
definitely heterosexual, I guess you could say.
After the taping, the 3 friends all go home on the same flight. At the airport, they found a yellow blinking construction light on the floor. They all thought it was a little weird and humorous to find road construction equipment in an airport, so they picked it up and took it home. They joked that maybe Donna could use it to replace the blinker lights on her car. It was one of those "I guess you had to be there" jokes that friend groups sometimes have. One of Scott's friends would claim that after returning home, the 3 of them went out for drinks and that nothing seemed abnormal. In fact, he said John got very drunk and there was some sort of intimate encounter between John and Scott. On March 9th, 1995, Jonathan came home from work and he found the construction light and a note on his welcome mat. Jonathan takes the items with him to his car, gets in, and drives to the bank to withdraw some cash. He uses the cash to buy a shotgun and some ammunition, and drives to Scott Amedure's mobile home. When John knocked on the door, Scott's roommate answered and invited John in. John confronted Scott about the note, asking if Scott was the one who wrote it. When Scott admitted to leaving the note, John said he'd be right back, he needed to run to his car. When John came back inside, he was holding the shotgun. Scott attempted to defend himself and picked up a chair, but that was no match for the 2 shotgun blasts. His roommate immediately called 911, but it was too late for Scott.
Oh, my God. Oh, Scott. Scott, no, you're okay.
Emergency 911.
Please get someone here right away. My friend has been shot.
Okay, what happened?
Someone just came in with a gun and shot him.
You don't know who it was?
Someone that he knows.
Okay, do you know who this person is? Can he give you a description?
I only know his name is John.
John? Okay.
Meanwhile, John left the scene and drove to a nearby gas station, and he made a call to 911 as well.
Emergency.
Ma'am, I think I just shot a man.
Okay, why did you do that?
Jonathan Schmitz was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. His trial began the following year. The defense would argue that Jonathan was suffering from a mental illness and snapped due to the humiliation he felt, that the unwanted advances made by Scott were adequate provocation to justify dropping the murder charge down to voluntary manslaughter. This is known as the gay panic defense. The gay or trans panic defense is a legal strategy that aims to obtain a reduced sentence or lesser offense conviction by using various legal defenses for violent crimes. The defense claims the defendant was provoked as a response to unwanted sexual advances. They argue that the advances were offensive or frightening, leading to their provocative or self-defensive reaction. This defense seeks to excuse or minimize the defendant's responsibility. As of 2023, 2/3 of the states in the U.S. still allow this defense to be used as an acceptable legal strategy. Jonathan's lawyers would make a public statement that John was bipolar, then immediately correct themselves, saying unipolar.
He happens to have had bipolar or unipolar depressive disorder that was coupled with this Graves' disease, and he probably reacted in a way that presumably you and I may not have reacted. But
Unipolar is another term for major depression. An expert witness for the defense would say that Jonathan was diagnosed with a major affective disorder, While technically true, depression is just a type of major affective disorder. Common symptoms of major depression are a persistent low mood and an inability to find pleasure in previously enjoyable activities. Other side effects can include irritability, poor memory, or sleep disorders. Severe cases can lead to psychotic episodes, but this is rare. The defense also noted Jonathan's heavy drinking and his thyroid condition as further evidence of his fragile mental state. Jonathan's father testified that John had even attempted to take his own life in the past. The defense claimed that Jonathan's mental state was exacerbated and triggered by being embarrassed and humiliated publicly, fearing being perceived as gay. John's father would also testify about how angry he was after hearing about the show, so much so that he was shouting slurs and throwing chairs.
It began with an F and ended with an S, didn't it?
Yes, that's what
Gay,
yes.
right? And you threw a chair, didn't you?
Yes.
The prosecution argued that embarrassment or humiliation was not an excuse for killing another person, that spoken and written words are not, on their own, sufficient provocation for an otherwise reasonable person to react violently. Jonathan would be found guilty of second-degree murder and a firearm felony, and sentenced to 25 to 50 plus 2 years in prison. In 1999, his conviction was overturned on a technicality regarding jury selection. He remained in prison as there would be a new trial. He was found guilty of second-degree murder for a second time and given an identical sentence. The Amedure family would file a wrongful death suit against Warner Brothers, the parent company of The Jenny Jones Show. In court, the family's lawyer argued that the show's producers exploited people's suffering for profit and that they were practically responsible for the tragedy. He blamed Jenny Jones for failing to get Schmitz's permission for a segment involving explicit sexual fantasies. They even called her to the stand to testify. The entire suit was broadcast on Court TV, whose parent company, ironically, is Warner Brothers. The Amedure family was awarded $25 million in the suit, but before they could collect any settlement, the ruling was overturned in appeals court in 2002. The court determined that the Jenny Jones Show, quote, had no duty to anticipate and prevent the act of murder committed by Schmitz 3 days after leaving the studio and hundreds of miles away. Schmitz gave every appearance of being a normal, well-adjusted adult who consented to being surprised on the show by a secret admirer of unknown sex and identity. Nothing in Schmitz's demeanor or in any of his interactions with the show put defendants on notice that he posed a risk of violence to others. The court said that the case should not have even been presented to the jury at all, because the murder was not foreseeable as a matter of law. This wasn't the only case related to appearances on tabloid TV shows. In 2000, Ms. Nancy Campbell Panitz was beaten to death by her ex-husband on the day that their Springer episode aired. Blake Alvey took his own life a few days after his appearance on the show. In the UK, the Jeremy Kyle show was canceled after Steve Diamond took his own life 1 week after taping. In 2017, after 22 years served, Jonathan Schmitz was released on parole. Scott's brother said that he hopes that Jonathan, quote, is a changed man, is no longer homophobic, and has gotten psychological care. While these daytime talk shows are no longer on the air, trash TV lives on in other forms. Before his death, Jerry Springer even said he regrets the impact his show had on TV and on society. But when it comes to the death of Scott Amedure, who shoulders the blame? Was it Jonathan who pulled the trigger? Was it trash TV for exploiting people for profits? Or was it us for watching? Let me know in the comment section below.
Till next time, take care of yourself and each other.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this case and found it interesting. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel for more true crime stories. As always, feel free to share your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you again, and be sure to join us next time as we explore the stories hidden within the wrinkles in crime.